So in this video, we're going to cover two things. We're going to cover smooth movement, but along the way, we'll handle taking in multiple key inputs as we go, because it's kind of a requirement for smooth movement. First of all, define smooth movement. Basically what we mean here is that right now, it's kind of like as opposed to doing something like this, where if I hit R, or if I'm hitting a button to get the thing to move, it's kind of like moving along very kind of jaggedly. We can see even more clearly here, I think we can see it's kind of like, it looks like it's kind of stuttering along here in a little bit. And that really comes down to how often the key command is getting called. And we can modify this. We don't have to go into too much detail about why that's happening, but we can modify this to work in a slightly different way where we can see something like this. We can see it's much cleaner ball movement. And along the way, we can do things like handling two inputs. Right now, I can make it go up to the left by hitting the up and the left key at the same time, which sometimes is not possible in processing because otherwise sometimes it just reads like the most recent key pressed. So we'll see kind of how this is working. All right, so let's get into the code of it. I'm going to walk through the code, and yeah, we'll have this smooth movement done by the end. Okay, so we're going to start with a mostly clean processing environment. Really all I have is like I have some variables for my circle X, my Y, and my size. And then down here in my draw, I'm just doing my background and drawing my circle, which is pretty common stuff to do in here. All right, so let's see. Let's add in. I'm probably going to do like maybe two of the movements to begin with, and I'll kind of fast forward to the other two because it's really kind of the same idea for all four of them. Very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare two variables. I'm going to declare a left variable, and I'm going to declare an up variable. So these variables are both type Boolean, which means, if you don't recall, a Boolean is a true or false value. So it's just the same as kind of like an integer or a double, but instead of storing numbers or like a string storing text, it's just storing literal true and false values in here. And let's see, so in my code, here's what I want to do. Inside of my draw loop, what I'm going to say is I'm going to constantly be checking the value of left. If left is true, then what I want to do is I want to decrease my Y value by a certain amount. Let's say by 10. I really should say circle X value. So I'm going to decrease that value by 10, and that should make my object move to the left if this value ends up being true. Default when I declare these variables are going to be false. So just Booleans will automatically kind of default to false. I could also say in here left is equal to false, up is equal to false if I really want to be super clear about it. Okay, so now what we need to do is, this is going to do nothing for right now because left is always false, so now we need to find some way of setting it to be true. And that's what we're going to do in our key pressed method. So down here, I'm going to say that if my key code is equal to, let's say, left, then what I want to do is I want to set left to be true. I think to begin with, I'm going to set my circle way off to the right side of my screen. So I'm going to say like 900. So now if we run this, nothing's happening. As soon as I press left, that Boolean variable is now true, and my circle is going to go flying off to the left. It's going to continue to fly off to the left, getting more and more negative. I'm never going to see it again. It's way off of my screen, so but it is moving left kind of constantly. So the real thing is like, well, that's great, but I probably want this thing to stop at some point. So that's where we can add in a new method. We call the key press method automatically gets called when we press a key, but we can also call the public void key released method, which gets called whenever a key is let go. Whenever we let go from a key, it's going to also call this method, and it's going to keep track of what key was released. Okay, so we can look at something like this. If the key is pressed, if it's left, then we should set this left variable to be equal to true. If it's released, then it's the left button, then we should set left equal to false. If we run this code, then we can see, right, when I press the button, we can see it's actually moving the object left, but as soon as I release it, maybe we'll go back to that, as soon as I release it, right, it stops moving. We can repeat this same pattern. Let me just, actually I'll pause for a second, we'll come right back. All right, so going right back into this, I did the same thing with up. I just said here, if up is true, then we're going to decrease the value of my circle's Y, and I'm going to set up to be true whenever the key is pressed, up key is pressed, and whenever the up key is released, we're going to set up to false. So now if we run this value again, we run this code again, we can see it's going left, we can see it's going up. Let's see if we run them both at the same time. We can also press both the keys at the same time, and it's going to make my thing move in multiple directions. So that's how we get some smooth movement in there. It also allows us to handle multiple key presses at the same time, and we can expand this out a little bit. Yeah, so we just kind of double up on this code, have right, down, here, in the key released, in the key pressed, and also inside of our draw. The one thing I would do while I have you here, the one thing I would also add in here, I don't love that I have this as like a fixed value 10 in here. This is kind of unrelated to smooth movement, but it's just kind of bothering me as I write this. I might say something like, I want to make a variable called circle speed and call it, say it's 10. And then inside my code, I can call circle speed kind of wherever I need to. And what's really nice about that is then I can like update this value later on. If I decide like right now I have this thing moving like that, if I decide that's going a little too fast, I only have to change it in one place here, and then I can make my code, you know, run a little bit slower. Or maybe if I wanted to, I could like maybe, again, this is like kind of going beyond what we were talking about, but I can also say if like my space bar is pressed, I could say circle speed is equal to, I don't want to make it too big. Let's say it's like 20, right? So then I can have this thing kind of moving kind of slowly, and if it's space bar, it's suddenly going to move very quickly. So that's kind of nice having like a variable in there. Good way of organizing our code and making it be a little more modifiable. So just something I thought of as I was writing this. And yeah, but that's it. Smooth movement, multiple keys. There we go.